The world changed overnight, in ways we could never have imagined. Silence descended where once digital hums and beeps were constant companions, filling our lives with a sense of perpetual motion. Screens went dark, their glassy eyes reflecting only emptiness, a stark contrast to the vibrant images they once displayed. The internet, our collective nervous system, went offline, leaving us disconnected and isolated. Cars, those metal extensions of ourselves, became inert sculptures, relics of a bygone era. The cause, whether a weaponized electromagnetic pulse, EMP, or a catastrophic cyber attack, hardly mattered in the grand scheme of things. We were thrust into an age we never anticipated, a world without technology, a reality we were utterly unprepared for. The initial hours were marked by disbelief and a chilling sense of unreality, as if we had stepped into a dystopian nightmare. Surely, this was a temporary glitch, a nightmare from which we would soon awaken, but the nightmare persisted. But as minutes turned into hours, a terrifying truth began to dawn on us. Our world, so intricately woven with the fabric of technology, was unraveling before our very eyes. The systems we took for granted, communication, transportation, even basic utilities, had vanished. The silence was deafening, a void that echoed with our collective anxiety. No more incessant notifications, no more news streaming in from every corner of the globe, no more digital noise. The constant barrage of information that had become our lifeblood had been severed, leaving us in a state of informational blackout. In its place was a vacuum, a void that echoed with uncertainty and fear, a silence that was both eerie and profound. The world, once a cacophony of digital noise, was now eerily still, a haunting silence that spoke volumes. We were adrift in a sea of silence, our digital lifelines cut, our connection to the global village abruptly severed, leaving us isolated and alone. The age of technology, it seemed, had come to an abrupt and unceremonious end, leaving us to ponder what comes next in this new silent world. Panic spread like wildfire through the concrete veins of our cities, a sudden and uncontrollable force that gripped every corner and crevice. People spilled onto the streets, their faces etched with a mixture of confusion and terror, as if the very fabric of their reality had been torn apart. The familiar rhythms of life, the daily commute, the ease of instant communication, the comforting glow of our devices, were gone, replaced by an eerie stillness that felt almost otherworldly. What replaced them was an unnerving silence, a sense of isolation that cut deep, as if the world had been muted and left in a state of suspended animation. The loss of communication was perhaps the most unsettling, a severing of the invisible threads that connected us all. Cell phones, once our constant companions, were now nothing more than useless slabs of metal and glass, relics of a bygone era. Televisions and radios, our windows to the world, sat dark and silent, their screens blank and lifeless. The internet, our portal to a limitless ocean of information, had simply ceased to exist, leaving us adrift in a sea of ignorance. Without these technological crutches, we were thrown back on our primal instincts, forced to rely on our most basic survival skills. Fear, the most primal of emotions, surged to the forefront, dominating our thoughts and actions. Fear of the unknown, fear for loved ones, fear for our very survival. It all coalesced into a paralyzing force. The thin veneer of civilization, so carefully constructed over millennia, began to crack and crumble, revealing the fragility of our societal structures. In the absence of information, rumors spread like wildfire, each more terrifying than the last. Tales of widespread chaos, of societal collapse, of roving gangs preying on the weak, filled the void, creating a landscape of fear and uncertainty. The line between fact and fiction blurred, fueled by fear and uncertainty, making it difficult to discern reality from imagination. We had been so accustomed to the immediacy and accessibility of information that its sudden absence left us feeling vulnerable, exposed, and deeply afraid, as if the very ground beneath our feet had shifted. Survival became the immediate priority. The world as we knew it had changed overnight, and the basic necessities of life were no longer guaranteed. Food, water, shelter, the fundamental needs that underpinned our existence, were suddenly in jeopardy. The security we once felt was replaced by a constant, gnawing uncertainty. Supermarket shelves, once overflowing with an abundance of choices, were quickly picked clean. The panic buying and hoarding left nothing but empty aisles and a sense of dread. Supply chains, those intricate webs of global interdependence, ground to a halt. The once seamless flow of goods and services was disrupted, leaving gaps that were impossible to fill. The realization that our access to food and water was not a given, but a fragile construct dependent on a complex network of technology, was a sobering one. It was a wake-up call to the vulnerability of our modern conveniences. The convenience of online grocery deliveries, of instant meals, of restaurants on every corner, vanished overnight. The services we had come to rely on were no longer available, leaving us to fend for ourselves. We were left to fend for ourselves, forced to confront the stark reality of our dependence on a system that was no longer there. The struggle for survival became a daily challenge. Those who had once scoffed at the idea of gardening or raising chickens in their backyards now found themselves scrambling for seeds and livestock. The skills and knowledge that had been dismissed as unnecessary were now in high demand. Knowledge that had been passed down through generations, dismissed as outdated in our modern world, suddenly became invaluable. The wisdom of the past was our guide to navigating this new reality. The ability to grow food, to purify water, to build shelter, skills that had been relegated to the realm of hobbyists and survivalists, were now essential for survival. These skills were no longer optional, they were a matter of life and death. The fragility of our modern way of life was laid bare. The infrastructure we had taken for granted was crumbling, and the bustling cities were now ghost towns. The systems we relied on, the conveniences we took for granted, were revealed to be as ephemeral as the digital signals that once connected us. The silence of the abandoned technology hubs was a stark reminder of our over-reliance on technology. We were left to face the harsh realities of a world without technology, a world where survival depended on our ability to adapt, to improvise, and to rediscover the lost arts of self-sufficiency. The journey ahead was uncertain, but it was a journey we had no choice but to undertake. The economic engine that drove our world sputtered and died. Global markets, once vibrant and interconnected, became ghost towns. The intricate web of finance, built on a foundation of digital ones and zeros, evaporated. Currencies, their value based on nothing more than collective belief, became worthless pieces of paper. Factories, reliant on automated systems and just-in-time inventories, fell silent. Supply chains, those arteries of global commerce, were severed. The intricate dance of production, distribution, and consumption, a hallmark of the modern world, ground to a halt. The global economy, once a roaring engine of growth and prosperity, was reduced to a smoldering ruin. The sudden halt of economic activity sent shockwaves through society. Unemployment skyrocketed as businesses shuttered their doors, unable to operate in a world without technology. The social safety nets of governments, already strained by increasing demands, were stretched to their breaking points. The promise of a comfortable retirement, built on the shifting sands of financial markets, evaporated overnight. The economic collapse exposed the deep inequalities that had long festered beneath the surface of our technological utopia. Those who had been struggling to make ends meet before the collapse were now faced with impossible choices. The gap between the haves and the have-nots, once bridged by the illusion of opportunity, became a chasm of despair.